So let's come up here and close the tabs panel and then press Control-0 on Windows or Command-0 on Mac to fit to the view. And now we're going to switch gears a little bit because while tabs are very, very helpful, tables are sometimes a better solution. So let's go over here to the Layers panel. You can see here that we've been working on the tabs layer. Let's turn that visibility off and turn on the tables layer. Go ahead and make sure that the tables layer is active just by clicking it, and then click the Layers panel tab again to dismiss that panel. Now in this layer, we're going to work with tables, and there are several ways to create and import tables inside of InDesign. So let's start by grabbing the Type tool, and then let's just click and drag inside this column here, and go up to the Table menu. And at the very top, we have the Insert Table command. Go ahead and choose that command, and now you see the Insert Table dialog box. This is pretty straightforward. It allows you to create a certain number of rows and columns, header rows and footer rows. We'll talk about all of these different things in a moment. I'm just going to go ahead and accept the default of 4 rows, 4 columns. Go ahead and click OK. I'm going to grab my zoom tool and zoom in a little bit here. Maybe Control 2 or Command 2 would be a good way to see everything that's going on there. And what you see here is a really simple table. This is pretty straightforward. However, the downside to this is that if you're creating tables from scratch in InDesign, that means you're probably going to be entering all of your data in InDesign, actually typing into each one of these table cells. Now you can do that, but it's not a very normal workflow because most text content, especially tabular information, is going to come from Microsoft Word tables or Excel spreadsheets. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and grab the selection tool, delete that frame, and instead of creating tables from scratch, we're going to place a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. So let's come up to the File menu, choose File, Place, and we'll navigate to Lesson 11 of Part 1 of your project files. You'll see a couple of files here. We want to choose schedule.xls. That's an Excel spreadsheet. Go ahead and for this example, make sure that Show Import Options is enabled and click Open. If you're dealing with really complex spreadsheets, this is going to be really helpful for you here at the top because you can actually choose which sheet that you want to import and which cell range. Now, my example file here is pretty simple, but again, if you were pulling from large amounts of financial data and you just wanted a certain range of cells, you can control that. Then here at the bottom, you have some decisions to make about formatting. Now, we're going to bring this in as an unformatted table. However, if your Excel spreadsheet or a table inside of a Word document had some formatting in there that you wanted to retain, you do have that option. You can also import a table as unformatted tab text or formatted only once in terms of a repeating pattern. I'm going to go ahead and choose Unformatted Table, make sure that's the default there, and go ahead and click OK. Now, depending on the fonts you have installed on your system, you might get a missing fonts warning. If that happens, go ahead and click the Find Font button here at the bottom, and go ahead and replace Times with something like Times New Roman if that's what you have available. Go ahead and click Done. And now you see the place cursor is loaded up with that Excel spreadsheet. So you can just click and drag to create that frame. Let's go ahead and press Control-0 or Command-0 on the Mac to see what's going on here. And we see that we have this table, but it's not quite fitting right. For example, it's too narrow in the column, and we also have this overset indicator here. So let's start fixing these issues. So let's go ahead and zoom back in, Control-2 or Command-2 on the Mac to zoom in, and we'll grab our Type tool. And it's important to understand here that tables are just an aspect to text frames. Tables can flow from frame to frame and page to page and can intermingle with other normal text. So we're going to do our editing with our text tool. Go ahead and hover your Type tool over the right-hand side of this table, click and drag, and we'll pull that out to the full width of the column. And now you can see here at the bottom that we no longer have an overset situation just by making that text area wider. It's all fitting into the frame here. And before we get to styling this table, let's look at a few different aspects of selecting and navigating tables. So first of all, to select a cell, just click anywhere inside the cell and then drag just slightly outside of it, and that will select just that one cell. If you want to select a range of cells, you can just click and drag across your cells. And if you want a specific set of rows or columns, For example, for rows, just click on the left-hand side here. You'll see this dark black arrow. Click and start dragging down. That will select those rows. You have very similar behavior with columns. And if you'd like to get the entire table with a single click, just position your cursor at the top left corner of the table. You'll see this diagonal arrow, single click, and you have the entire table selected, even if that table jumps to other frames or pages. Now let's scroll down to the bottom here and look at a few other options. Now under the table menu, and you're going to get very familiar with this menu by the way, we do have a couple of other commands related to inserting and deleting content. So for example, you could insert rows or columns. Let's just show one example. We'll insert one row, and we have the choice of how many. Let's just do one, and we'll do it below our current insertion point right here at the bottom. So we'll add one row, and we see that result there. We can also take multiple cells, select them, go back up to the table menu. We also have the ability to merge cells. So tables don't have to be very rigid. They may start out in a very structured way, but then we can really divide them up, merge them. After we've merged them, we can also select that cell, go back to the table menu, and we can also split them both horizontally and vertically. So we can have a lot of fun here, divvy this up however we need based on the content that we plan to put inside of all of these cells. So before we're done, let's select that bottom row, remembering that in addition to being able to insert rows and columns, we can also delete rows and columns. We could delete the whole table. We don't want to do that at this point. Let's just delete that bottom row. And if you had a really long table, maybe something that's spread over multiple pages, also available in the table menu is the Go to Row command. So if you knew that you had something to edit on row 500, you could enter that value in here and click OK. For now, let's just jump to row 6, for example, and see where that lands us right there at the top of the table.